Good afternoon, Bucknutters. Welcome to What We Learned Live. Presuming you guys can see me right now. Looks like the connection's a little shaky. Following Ohio State's 35-16 win at Rutgers. Way too close for comfort. Buckeyes were trailing 9-7 at the break. Looks like we are good to go here. StreamYard's telling me that the connection's not good. Let me know if you guys in the comment section, if everything looks good to you. But they responded in the second half. I mean, they've got to play way better. It feels like I'm saying this every week. They've got to play better if they're going to achieve their goals. But yeah, easy. I love it. Sexton Brothers on YouTube, easy cover. For those who don't know what he's talking about, Buckeyes win by 19. Spread was 18.5. By the way, I have never seen a spread and an over-under that didn't move at all week. It opened at 18.5, 40.2 or 42.5 over-under, and it did not move. Let's get into Kyle McCord. We got a lot of people saying McCord sucked, McCord this. Listen, he started off really good, and momentum is a huge thing in football. We all know that. He started off 10 of 10. If Julian Fleming catches that ball and they go 11 of 11, McCord goes 11 of 11. I mean, momentum is just absolutely massive. So when McCord starts off 10 of 10, looking good, drops an absolute dime to G. Scott for his first career touchdown, then's going 11 of 11. That would have been a first down from Fleming, who could have ran perhaps for a touchdown, certainly for a long gain. Buckeyes had a chance to go up 14-0 there, and then you never know what can happen. And then the aforementioned G. Scott then later drops a pass. But, yeah, I mean, McCord looked bad after that, but you just never know. I mean, he started off this game looking really good to me, and then didn't play well. And then that last pass to Marvin just now for the touchdown, the second touchdown to Marv, great pass. Absolute dime to G. Scott, absolute dime to Marv, and then Kyle will do things that just frustrate the shit out of you. I was sitting there, I had in my notes hey, people are going to be critical of Kyle, but he's playing well. And then interception. I'm not even joking. Literally the next play, interception. We learned Travion Henderson. We're going to get to Dan Rubin in just a minute. Dan Rubin is about to check in. We learned Travion Henderson took this game over, my friends. Travion Henderson took this game over, and I'm here for it. I've been critical of him. I don't think I've been overly critical of him. I think I've been fair. Travion Henderson is a freaking stud. This is exactly what we expected when we saw him as a true freshman. Just thinking about him in his junior year a couple years ago, you're thinking, man, how good could he be? We're seeing it. He took this game over. I think we learned you got to give Rutgers some credit. You got to give Rutgers some credit. I thought Greg Schiano played well. How about Jermaine Matthews getting the start? G. Scott getting the start. I thought Carnell Tate stepped up late. I'll get into much more of what I learned. I'm going to bring in my guy, Dan Rubin, because I know he's got some family stuff to deal with. Dan, good to see you.
Good to see you after another win.
Yeah, the best thing about being 9-0 is?
The chance to be 10-0, that's for sure.
That's damn right.
I do imagine.
Right.
Yeah. I do imagine the Michigan fans watching that game and being even more pissed that we're ranked number one. That made it okay. But, an uneven effort. I got to hear a little bit of what you said. I agree with everything you said. Just seemed like it was one step forward, and then they would make a mistake. McCord, like you said, a couple didn't feather that pass in correctly to Marv on the sideline. A couple really bad drops, too. I mean, the G. Scott drop killed that drive. I mean, that was a killer. That was a bad Fleming drop in there as well. So a couple really bad penalties timing wise too. I mean, we had him in minus 20 and Sonny got this one on the sideline there. But overall, cosmetically, I picked 40-16, 35-16. We'll take it.
Ooh, you did well. You did well, sir. I picked 34-6. Ugh. You did well.
Yeah, Rutgers ran the ball a lot better than I thought they were going to. I mean, they are pretty much a one-trick pony, and I was impressed with their running game in the middle. That Monangai kid is a tough kid.
He is. He's the real deal. There's no doubt about it. So we got Dan Rubin on the show right now. We're going to hear from Mark Neal, the old school Buckner is going to be like, wow, is this the old post-game show?
That's
After
cool.
Mark Neal, we're going to eventually hear from Patrick Murphy, Steve Helwagen, live from what's it called? SHI Stadium in New Brunswick. I actually acted like I was looking that up. It's just a blank phone. But Dan, I mean, all right, let's start with the good. I mean, Travion Henderson.
Wow.
Holy crap. I mean, number 32 is the dude.
Yeah, he was, like I said on this air last week, I wanted to be clear on it because I've been a little critical of him in the past and his lack of a wiggle. I thought last week was his best game that I remember, and this week he followed it up with an equally impressive performance. The 3rd and 9, catch where he manages. By the way, the ref almost made a nice play on that ball. That would have been catastrophic, but he's got that special gear. That play was made at the dinner table. And the recruiting of him down the stretch, the way he got to the sideline, you think he's going to go out and get you another 35 yards. He ran hard today too. And he took a pounding. So very, very impressed with Travion. Absolutely the MVP of the game. I mean, he was dominant. And a good sign for going forward too, I did think that they were able to open up some holes against Rutgers that were real nice. There was a little bit more movement when G. Scott was asked to do a lot today. It was interesting. When he managed to get his blocks, the plays were there. So I like the plan for sure.
Yeah, it looked like, I mean, I'm sure if this was the national championship game or the game, which is just 3 weeks away, which is crazy, Cade Stover would have played. In fact, and if they said you can't play, Cade Stover would have killed somebody. He would have found out a way to get on the field. But they were like, we're good. We're good. We're going to try and hold you out. He's been banged up. So, yeah, I mean, G getting his first start. Man, poor kid. He gets that touchdown, his first career touchdown. Then he gets a bad drop his very next. It's like, oh, damn. But, yeah, man. So, let's look at some of the stars of this game. We already talked about Travion. Josh Proctor.
Great.
Dude, this, of course, the 1 year I don't come into a season talking of Josh Proctor, Dan. He becomes a stud. I'm here for it. I'm here to eat that crow. Great for Josh Proctor. He is an absolute stud.
Just looking at my notes, other guys that jumped out to me. I do think Sonny brings it, man.
Yep.
Back in the day, I used to say I thought Antoine Winfield had cement in his pads. You know what I'm saying? Guys just went down. And there was that play where Wimsatt kind of looked like he was closer to the first down. They reviewed it and moved it back because he hit Sonny and his knee went right down. His body went into immediate paralysis.
Right.
So if there's a silver lining to all the injuries, which is another show entirely. I mean, this has been going on for almost 2 years now where it feels like they're losing 2 to 3 guys a game. And Lord knows it wouldn't be an Ohio State game without another guy showing up on the injury list I didn't expect, and Denzel Burke this time. Very impressive to get Styles those snaps. The more snaps that Hancock and Styles get long-term is good because those guys are clearly, we always used to talk about we need those defensive players that look like the guys on Alabama and Georgia, and those 2 guys fit right in.
Yeah, Dan, and Malik Hartford struggled. I mean, he's a true freshman trying to play safety at Ohio State. That is a tough situation to be in. I recognize that, but Malik Hartford struggled today.
He did. He missed that one obvious tackle on the Dremel, the little Cole Beasley lookalike in the slot. And it was not a hard tackle. It's one you got to make. He did make a nice play in the end zone, but, man, that's a lot to ask of a true freshman. I mean, if you really look at the depth chart, 3 of your main 4 guys in the secondary were out. It just seems like, Eichenberg went down at the end of the game. I don't know what's up with him. Burke didn't even play. Mayan's already gone for the year. There was a time they didn't play Emeka as much as I thought they would. They came out with a 2-receiver set in the second half. That great drive in the second half. There was 2 receivers on the field. It was Marvin and Carnell. And Carnell played great on that drive. Had 2 big catches. But, I mean, Cosmetically, it didn't look like it should have most of the game. And, going forward, my biggest concern, obviously, with the next few games is injuries. But 35-16 cosmetically, in terms of the national press, there was a time during that game, and I was like, no matter what they do, there's no way they're going to be ranked number one. And now I still think they'll have a good shot to be up there.
Yeah, if you're of the gambling persuasion and you had the Buckeyes minus 18.5, you're kind of liking life right about now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, again, in the spirit of full disclosure, as I said earlier, I said something and then something else happened. Literally, Dan, in my notes, I wrote, seriously, they're sticking with nickel when all they can do is run the ball. You're sticking with nickel. That's what the very next play was. Pick six, Jordan Hancock, Josh Proctor coming in there, bam. Jordan Hancock's like, thank you. 93 yards. That was the sixth longest touchdown interception return in Ohio State history. They've been playing football for 9 million years.
There was some luck involved with that play. Got a nice bounce. Hancock made a nice play to get it, and then it just opened up. Gavin Wimsatt tried to take out Sonny's knee on the way there. Thank you very little. That's a cheesy play right there.
I thought they called that on Sonny. I was so pissed. I thought they called the flag on Sonny. I was so pissed, and then I had to calm down. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I am the main look for the yellow marker when the touchdown comes guy, and when you get a long touchdown like that and they're like flags flying, I'm like, oh, for the love of God. You automatically assume it's like a block in the back, 18 yards away from the play. And as it turns out, it was Wimsatt taking out some frustration on Sonny, but tremendous play. And that was probably the first time I had a slight exhale the whole day.
Another thing I wrote down, the last thing I wrote down in my notes, a few pages in this, the last thing I wrote down was, shit, Tommy hurt, ?
Yeah.
I was thrilled to see him come back. He hurt his arm, left, went in the tent. Then it looked like he was going back to the locker room, then came back. We're going to hear from Steve Helwagen and Patrick Murphy later, knowing what I know about our head coach. He ain't going to say shit about it, but maybe he will. But again, it's probably good news that he was able to come back out. I don't know.
My original fear if we're going to play TV doc, he didn't do any of the stuff for your shoulder. Like when you see the doc come right over to you and stick his hand underneath there and started messing around like that, they took him right in there. Leads me to believe it was probably a stinger, and then his right arm was maybe numb, and they went in there to check it out. But Eichenberg is worth his weight in gold. He was tremendous today. I'm not sure Simon played all right. I'm not sure Steele's having the best. He's catching a lot of dudes, man, in the run. He's a catcher, which can really, in short yardage can be some trouble. But thought the defensive line played pretty well. They got some key pressures when they needed them. Jack Sawyer's been playing pretty well, man. I mean, he's not going to have the sack numbers that we all wanted, but he is playing well. And then Tyleek was his usual self, tremendous. And Mike Hall flashed a few times. I'll tell you what, when I watch Mike Hall play, I do think an NFL team is going to fall in love with him. A team that uses those interior guys that just fly up the field and like the old Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Warren Sapp approach. Hall is tremendous at that. So beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I think he's going to have one NFL team fall in love with him. But it was nice to see G. Scott get the touchdown, that's for sure, especially if he missed a block on the play before. And like you said, had the drop afterwards. But very cool to get a touchdown, and it was a very impressive catch.
Mike Hall can play for my Bengals anytime. They call him a mini Aaron Donald. I might call him mini Geno Adkins. I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but I agree with you, man. All right, jump off anytime you need to, but I feel like I buried the lead here. The show's supposed to be about Ohio State Rutgers, and we're talking Ohio State Rutgers, and Ohio State beat Rutgers 35-16. We're breaking it all down, and that's all well and good. But how have we not talked about the cheating scandal at Michigan yet, Mr. Rubin? I mean, I tell you what, man, if we sat down and wrote this script, everything happened, people would be like, get back in the lab, rewrite it. That is complete nonsense. No one would ever believe that. I'm here for it, man. I'm running out of popcorn.
So many layers, Dave. So many layers. There's just what's going on there. There's, how they're reacting to it. in comparison to how everyone responded to Tattoo Gate. I posted something on the boards. I cut and pasted this Michigan thing, and I just replaced all the words with Tattoo Gate and Terrell Pryor and stuff like that, and you would not know which one was written when. Yeah, man, it does like, and I get that if we were betting in Vegas, you probably bet that nothing major would happen just because there's no precedent. But it certainly seems like there are people who expect Harbaugh to get suspended. I know Blue Sam said suspended at the least, and that probably hurt him to type. But if he did put it out there, my guess is it's probably worse. So I'm kind of torn on it, man. And I do find it interesting that, so if they suspend Harbaugh, I think that would give us an advantage in the game. And if they give him a postseason ban, that obviously helps us. So I don't want to knock on somebody. If Ohio State finishes with a loss and it's at Michigan, and God forbid that happens, they're going to the playoff. Because if you think about it, if Michigan's actually working for Ohio State now. If they win out and then we lose at Michigan, it'll be the number, and that means they'll be number one, and it'll be the hardest game in college football. Will be on the road at Michigan, and we'll lose. And you have wins in the rest of your games, you're going to the playoff. So I don't know. I find the whole thing comical. And like we both have gone over, I'll tell you what, who's not hurting? The Michigan Insider for page views. Okay.
Ain't hurting Bucknuts either.
I didn't want to say anything about that, but they are crushing it over there page view wise. I have donated a few myself. I'm not going to lie, but man, it's just,
I'm laughing my ass off.
it's, I've even heard them say it, man, if they even fall down 7-0 to Purdue, you'll be able to feel it from here. So it's comical, man. You had, I don't know what you gave. You had some funny line about it. You told me earlier, what is it? Legal pornography or some harmless pornography.
Somebody referred to it as sinless porn. I don't know. I mean, maybe people are like, porn's not a sin, but like, I love things
you know when you see it.
You feel about that? I thought that was a good way of putting this Michigan scandal. It's watching this is like daily sinless porn.
It's awe inspiring. I mean, so I don't look. We aren't reporting on it. Like we don't have reporters assigned to it from Bucknuts, so I'm not getting like the behind the scenes phone call. People hate. We actually broke Tattoo Gate. We had to at the time. I don't know if people remember that. Dave was actually the one to break that. But yeah, it's comedy over there, man. Like the guy getting busted.
Anyway. I'm not proud of that. It was going to come out anyway. We were just the ones that got the information. We verified it. We did break Tat Gate. For those that don't know, we knew it was ridiculous, that it was unfair for Ohio State, but it was going to come out anyway. So yeah, we broke it.
It doesn't feel as ridiculous now. I'll tell you that much. I mean, it looks silly, but in terms of seriousness, I mean, some of the stuff you're hearing about their staffers, former staffers being involved in stuff at Walmart and stuff. I don't want to get into it.
I mean, the Ohio State stuff was, we thought it was.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, come on.
In
retrospect?
Yeah.
In retrospect?
Even then, we were like, this is so stupid, but we have to, I mean, we have it verified. We have to run it. If we don't run it, name it. 11 Warriors will run it. I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm giving them props. Ozone at the time. Name it. Someone would have ran it. The Columbus Dispatch. So it happens.
All right, Dave,
I know you got to get to some family stuff, man.
Let me leave you with this.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't get. 18, we whip them. 19, whip them. 20, they bag it because they're going to go to the shed. Then dude starts calling his shots by going on the road and getting all the information. Then we lose. Come on, man. I'm not saying, I mean, I haven't gone back play for play on that, but if you're Ryan Day and we can win this one against Michigan now, you're going to have butt kick, you cowards, asterisk, win. Okay. So that's how it's going to be. And I'm here for it.
I'm glad you were here for what we learned live He is the publisher. He's Dan Rubin. Thank you, sir.
Talk to you on Monday.
Tell your family I said hi. All right, he is Dan Rubin. I almost thought he didn't want to leave there. I brought him back in there for a second. All right, we're going to hear from Mark Neal in just a moment. It's going to feel like the old school. Man, it's going to feel like the old school at Bucknuts Postgame Live with Mark Neal. We heard from Dan Rubin. Mark Neal, for those who don't know, Mark Neal, longtime host of Dayton Sports Scene, was the program director there, now lives in Minneapolis. He's away from the sports media business now, but one of the pioneers of the radio business in Dayton, did a great job, and he was a big part of Bucknuts while he was still in Dayton. Moved there with his wife about 5-7 years ago, something like that. So we're going to hear from Mark Neal in a moment. Those of you who have been with Bucknuts a long time, Mark Neal needs no introduction, but I wanted to let you guys know, if you haven't heard of Mark Neal, now you have. Former host of Dayton Sports Scene, ESPN Radio 1410 in Dayton, and host of Bucknuts Postgame Live. And we did a pregame show, too, that Mark Neal hosted along with Dan Rubin. All right, guys, so fire them my way. I'm going to get some more stuff that we learned. It was good to see Marv get those 2 touchdowns, because overall the catches and the yards are not what I wanted to see. I'm talking about from like a Heisman perspective, because I was like on record, like, if he stays healthy and they win out, Marv's winning the Heisman. And I still feel that way. Touchdowns look good. Now he's got 10 touchdowns on the year. I can't say enough nice things about Travion Henderson. What a great game from him. And he's such a weapon in the passing game, too. Swing the ball out to him, bam, 65 yards can happen. That's huge. Jordan Hancock has been a dude all year. Thrilled he got that pick 6. I mean, he needs to take Josh Proctor out for a steak and lobster dinner. Yeah, that was Josh Proctor, like knocking that ball right into his hands. But credit Jordan Hancock. He's been a dude all year. I always loved him. I think he would have been good last year if not for that injury in camp. And he didn't come back till halfway through the season. And then rough year. Again, you got to give Rutgers credit. They were winning at halftime. Rutgers is leading 9-7 at halftime against Ohio State. Ohio State did cover the spread, which is amazing, given the fact that Ohio State was trailing at halftime, and the spread was 18.5, but that happened. So give the Buckeyes credit, too, for having a good second half. But, man, I'll tell you what, give the defense a lot of credit in general for forcing 3 field goals in the first half. And before that, the defense, it was all about threes, I guess. To start the game off, the defense had 3 straight 3-and-outs. 3 straight 3-and-outs from Ohio State's defense. Game should have been over by then. I'm so convinced. It's not even, could have been anybody. It happened to be Julian Fleming. When Ohio State's up 7-0, McCord's 10 of 10. Rutgers is doing nothing offensively. They're 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. If Fleming catches that ball for that first down in Rutgers territory, instead of Ohio State having a punt, which ended up going in the end zone, I believe, that game might be over, at 14-0 or whatever it might have been after that, 10-0. Instead, you give Rutgers a little bit of life. But defense starts out 3-and-out, 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 3 straight 3-and-outs, and they hold Rutgers to 3 field goals when they looked like they were going to score touchdowns each time. At least they were deep, deep, deep in Ohio State territory. All 3 of those field goals were chip shots. So give Ohio State's defense a lot of credit. Now, do I like that Rutgers outgained Ohio State in this game? No, I hate that. In fact, let me make sure that's accurate. Beg my pardon as I look this up. I want to make sure that's accurate, because at one point late in the game when I was preparing for the show, I'm like, a win is good, but, Rutgers is going to outgain you. Maybe Ohio State was able to, get the edge late. Let's check it out here. I'm looking at this live. All right, so total yards. Yeah, Rutgers outgained them. Rutgers, 361 total yards. Ohio State, 328. Rutgers, 361 total yards. Ohio State, 328. Not good, my friends. Not good. They have to be better. And we keep saying, myself included, well, there's not an elite team in college football this year. True, but one of those not elite teams is Ohio State. They have an elite defense. Travion Henderson looks elite. Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously is elite. He better win the Heisman. They even said it kind of on the broadcast today. Hammond was like, a lot of people say he's arguably the best player in college football. That's as much as you hear somebody couch it. It's usually just like Marvin Harrison's the best player in college football. And I keep saying, like, we have an award for that. There is an award for best player in college football. So why is he such a long shot for the award? But he's not a long shot anymore. People have finally caught on. Media's been talking about it. Some money has obviously been bet on Marvin, or the line wouldn't change that much. Vegas doesn't move lines just based on what the media is saying. So, I still think whatever happens in that Michigan game, if Ohio State wins, Marvin stays healthy these next 3 games, we're going to have the 5th ever receiver to win the Heisman. 5th. It's only happened 4 times. 4 times. And I think Marvin's going to win it. So good for him to get those 2 touchdowns late. Carnell Tate, 2 back-to-back big catches. Even though the second one was the longer of the 2 and was on 3rd and 2, that 8-yard catch over the middle is the one I loved. Why? Because he knew he was going to get hit. We're talking about a true freshman, kind of skinny, 6'2", 190. I'm not saying he's like, skin and bones, but true freshman going over the middle, knows he's going to get popped, and is like, I'm good. Gets the catch, takes the hit, 8 yards, then it's 3rd and 2. That was the play where a lot of people thought Josh Simmons jumped early. I thought that was perfect timing by Josh Simmons. I don't know what people were talking about. But seriously, Carnell Tate, great job by him. Over the middle for 8 yards. Bam, knew he was going to get hit. I mean, that is the definition of toughness as a receiver. If you go over the middle, especially going over the middle short, and there's a linebacker and or a safety that's about ready to take your head off, and you don't flinch, you're a tough dude. You have the wallet that has BMF on it. Love that. Again, as I told Dan, I literally wrote down, they're sticking with nickel, question mark. Because I'm like, why are they sticking with nickel when all Rutgers can do is run and not pass? Right after I wrote that pick 6. So there you go. I'm gonna call reverse psychology on that one. Yeah, I see that. That's the game I have out here in the background because that was the game after Ohio State. It's funny. I started the show almost and I still had my TV like sound on. Like, I probably should mute the TV before I do the post-game show. But yeah, I see that too. Missouri, the surprise team of college football this year. How about Missouri? Man, if they can beat Georgia, that'd be awesome. I tend to think Georgia will come back and win this game, but man, it just goes to show there's not an elite team in college football this year. Georgia's number 2. They're struggling at home against Missouri. Now, Missouri's good. There's 12th in the country. I think my guy Mark Neal's having trouble getting on the show. Oh, he might be he's on Central Time. That could be the confusion there. I told Mark Neal to try and jump on at 4. Let me tell him like Eastern Time. Like, he should know it's Eastern Time. There we go. Sorry, you guys. All right, let's get more into it. So, it's still crazy. The Buckeyes won this game by 19. Feels like they won it by like a field goal? Like, it's just, but hey, the years they win the national title, it's like a year where it's like weird things happen. 2002, I don't need to explain to you guys how many close games there were that year, including the national championship game itself. 2014, how many times were they called, dead by everybody, present company included, before the season started? Oh, season's over. Braxton's hurt. Lose to Virginia Tech at home. Season's over. Bam. Then they get back into it. JT's looking like a really good dude. Heisman contender. JT lost for the season against Michigan. Season over. Hopefully they can just maybe win the Big Ten championship. Season over, though. Win the national championship with Cardale. So you never know. That's totally spin doctoring on my part, and I get that. But, like, listen, you just never know. Survive and advance. They're 9-0. There's not an elite team out there. Michigan is in complete disarray with everything that's going off. I mean, to think that's not going to affect them on the field is foolery. Like, it will absolutely affect them. My only question is to what degree? Like, we talk about distractions in sports. I mean, can you imagine a bigger one? And it probably the hammer's not going to come down on Michigan, in my opinion, until after the season, as far as the serious stuff, which I would bet my life is coming. Michigan's going to get hammered. But during the season, I think that's going to be something minor, like Harbaugh gets suspended, which has already been rumored. That's not minor. Yeah, comparatively speaking, it's minor. Comparatively speaking to what's coming down the pike, it's minor. It's certainly more minor than canceling their season or vacating all their victories, which might be coming in the future. They might have to vacate all their victories from these past few years. People keep saying 2021, maybe, certainly 2022, and so far 2023, because, here's the thing. Carter Stallions did not get hired full-time until summer of 2022. So there's been a little bit of people have misconstrued that a little bit. Like he got hired. Yeah, he was like a volunteer in 2021. He was a volunteer before that as well. But he didn't actually get hired full-time until prior to the 2022 season. So my guess is if they have to vacate any victories, it would be all of 2022 and then so far in 2023. They'll probably cut it off now. You could argue they shouldn't because there we go. There's Mark Neal. There he goes. He's like, you said 4:00 Eastern, right? I think he forgot. Like he was on Central Time. My guy. He's trying to hop on. So yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm texting with Mark. This is the thing. I need to get a producer, so I'm not doing like 5 things at once. But yeah, I mean, so like if you're talking about vacated victories, like keep in mind, Carter Stallions was not hired full time at Michigan prior to the 2022 season. So my guess is they'll have all of those victories vacated and everything up to now. It's a lot of wins. It's a lot of wins out the window for the winningest program in college football history, including all those wins against like the all-girls school from like Beaver Creek, Ohio that they had in 1890. Like those wins count, but like the wins the last couple years won't. Sisters of the Poor, 1899, those will still count. Minnesota last year, no, it won't count. Or what? I don't know if they played Minnesota last year. Yeah, we're having some fun at Michigan's expense because they deserve it. It is seriously, all joking aside, it's one of the more despicable things I've seen in sports. This Carter Stallions guy, man, is just if you guys know my history, like I am as big of a fan of our U.S. military as you will find. This guy is an embarrassment to Michigan. He's an embarrassment to our military. He's an embarrassment to our country. It's flat out criminal what he did. Flat out criminal what he did. Let's bring in Mark Neal. Mark Neal is flat out criminal what Ohio State was doing for part of the game. What are your main takeaways? They got it together though, man. They won 35-16. Welcome to the show, Mark Neal. Your takeaways from this game.
Oh, it's one of the, and I hate to be hyperbolic and I hate to make too much out of something, but it just seems like every time they play a team that they are so much better than they don't run them over like we expect. I say play down to competition, big bowl eligible, but they just never blow people away like we expect. Now I'll tell you, this team with and without Trevion Henderson is a completely different animal. But if it weren't for that interception return for a touchdown, where are we today, Dave?
I know, man. And that's the thing. Like, it wasn't just like a touchdown return for a touchdown. Like, Rutgers was leading 9-7 going in for another score. Probably would have been a field goal, but still. And then what a huge play. Josh Proctor, man. I love it. I talk this young man up every year, except for this year, going into every season. Like, Josh Proctor is going to be a dude this year. And this year, I'm like, come on, there's no way the light's going to suddenly turn on as a 6th-year senior. I'm claiming reverse psychology on that, but seriously, all joking aside, props to Josh Proctor. He's playing great football. I hope he's okay. I think he is okay. I think that was a precaution. He was fine. He was laughing on the sidelines. I think he got dinged. I don't think it was a concussion. I'm just guessing. But Mark Neal, Josh Proctor, kudos to that young man.
Yeah, really stepping up. Lathan being out, hurts. They're really dealing with a lot. It just seems like over the last couple of years, a lot every team with that, but at the same time, Tommy right now, what's his situation? No Denzel Burke today, no Kate Stover today. Guys need to step up and just that. Yeah. Does the light usually think? Not necessarily. Glad it did.
Travion Henderson. Woo, boy. Now we knew last week, we're like, well, that brings a different element, as if we forgot. And then you see it today. It's like, damn, he just completely was the star of the game. Took that game over, Mark Neal.
Yeah, you were breaking up on me, but I think
Travion Henderson.
Trevion. Yeah, just absolutely. He's really shifty. Obviously, he's a guy that's going to make some impact on Sundays if he can stay healthy. Caught the ball out of the backfield. That big 60-plus yard catch was enormous. His ability back there. Sometimes you buy in and you look at Chip. It's a one-headed with two good buddies behind him. Trevion is a different kind of player for this team when he's in there. It's really been, I texted you earlier in the week, which I am wont to do, as Dan Rubin would say, about how it seems like off and on this season, Mayan and Trevion have been tagging in and out, only to be healthy each week. But right now, Trevion being in there is all the difference in the world. Without him, he's the difference maker on the team. Obviously, Marvin is too. But Trevion is doing as a runner and as a receiver, that's a whole nother level for this offense, one that is much needed.
Where are you at with Kyle McCord? I thought he started the game really well. I'm really curious if Julian Fleming didn't have that drop. That would have been 11 out of 11 to start the game for Kyle. If he just would have been just completely on fire all game. Didn't happen. He went into a rut after that. Where are you at with Kyle McCord after 9 games?
And my internet here must be dicey. You were talking about the passing game.
Where are you at with
Kyle specifically?
Yeah, just what are your feelings about Kyle McCord after now seeing him as the Buckeye starter for 9 games this season?
There's nothing that really wows me about Kyle. I mean, yes, starting off the game 10 for 10, should have been 11 for 11. A lot of that was a lot of check downs. I'm not going to take a whole lot away from him. He's a first-year starter, but at the same time, he's been in the program for a year. There's just a lot that wows me about him. We've been spoiled. Last 3 quarterbacks that have been starters here regularly were all first-round picks, all Big Ten type players. That's just not what Kyle is. The expectation level that he can meet. But Kyle is a serviceable quarterback. We hear that word a lot in the NFL. He's a serviceable quarterback for college. Luckily, he's got guys like Marvin and Mecca and Kate Stover to throw it to, and guys like Trevion to hand it to. But when it's time for Kyle McCord to win now he did it against Notre Dame. He marched down the field and won the game. So you can't just, he's incapable of it. But when it's okay, Kyle, go win us a game. I don't have a ton of faith in that happening going forward. But, it's not just him. My dad always told me when I was playing soccer as a goalie, he said, hey, to get it by 10 other people before they scored on you. He's got an offensive line that's got to block for him. He's got receivers that's got to get open for him. And sometimes guys on defense just make plays. It's not all on Kyle.
We got to give Rutgers some credit, right? I mean, that was a hell of a fake that they had on that 4th down play. I mean, I got to give Schiano some credit here. The Schiano man. Play us a song. You're the Schiano man.
Well, yeah, that's what you and J-Book were talking this week. Jonah brought up a good point that, Schiano will pull out everything but the kitchen sink. And that's that big play they had in the first half was right out of that playbook. Greg Schiano's going to have his guys ready. He's got to play small. They're effectively another service academy, which is fine. They were deep into the game before they completed a pass, like almost at the end of the half. In the game, as they stuck the game plan. The fact that interception happened and the fact that they just don't have the same talent eventually will catch up to you over the course of 60 minutes. But Greg Schiano had a plan that was razor thin when you talk about any kind of margin of error. And when you run into a little bit of margin of error like they did, that's what's going to happen. That's why Rutgers won't beat Ohio State very often. And you saw why.
We'll get you out of here on this, my friend. I just want to get your thoughts on everything. I haven't even asked you. Maybe we've texted about it a little bit. I've texted with everybody I know, so I'm sure you and I have texted about it. I've texted with like millions of people about this, but like your thoughts on the Michigan situation, how surprising it is to you, and what do you think ultimately will happen to the Wolverines?
I think it's amazing that what's going on. There's so many things that just are so obvious about it. I mean, all of a sudden, when this thing supposedly kind of started, they became unbeatable. I was at that Ohio State-Michigan game last November, and Ohio State scored 3 points. Ohio State scored, 38 against Georgia, and can't muster but 3 points in the second half against Michigan. Everything in – I mean, we have video of so many things. Everything's so obvious. And the paper trail is remarkable. Connor Stallions couldn't have left more breadcrumbs and Gretel than he did. My goodness. Why don't you just have your name on tickets and just everything is so blatantly obvious with that. Now, as far as punishments, let's start from the far end. There's zero chance they're getting anything like that.
Mark Neal, thank you, sir.
That's based on bylaws. They have.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
You're
cutting out a little bit on me, my friend.
Oh,
hey,
I just can't imagine that they.
He's like old school. Dan Rubin and Mark Neal on the postgame show. I love it. Mark Neal, great stuff, brother. I'm going to let you go and get Patrick Murphy in here. Thank you, Mark. All right. Mark Neal. There in the Twin Cities, having a little bit of internet issues. We got Patrick Murphy. Patrick Murphy's going to try and join us here from New Brunswick / Piscataway. I think it's technically in New Brunswick. Like Champaign-Urbana with Illinois. Pat, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, there you go. I thought I saw you before. All right. So, biggest thing out of post-game interviews, anything stand out to you?
I think a couple things. First, I know that the offense is not what, and we've talked about this a lot, not what people are used to. But I asked Ryan Day about, things starting to come together as they get healthy. And you saw bits and pieces of it these last couple weeks. Travion, obviously 2 big games in a row. I know Marvin's day wasn't as big, but 2 touchdowns. We can get to the Kyle McCord thing in a second, but I think that, and he said, if we get all our pieces back, we can be a dangerous offense. And, maybe they won't be as explosive as they were the last couple of years, but I think that you're starting to see some pieces. And with this defense playing the way it is, and that was the other main thing was, Josh Proctor, who we did talk to after the game, and he said he was fine. He was asked about the play and was like, pause for a second, because he clearly didn't want to say, he was asked if he got knocked out. I think Tim May asked him if he got knocked out, and did
you get like concussed?
Yeah,
were you concussed?
And he said that his head hurt a little bit. He was like, it was ringing a little bit. He's like, I needed to compose myself on the ground there. But he said was in terms of those red zone stops, if they're gonna give us an inch, we're gonna take it. And I thought that was interesting. The stops down there were huge. Obviously, if those are touchdowns, we're talking about a really different game. And this defense just continues to be what Ohio State leans on, right? The offense makes enough plays, but it's because this defense, you can count on them to get stops every time, nearly every time. And they did get a little fortunate today, a couple times that touchdown that could have been for Rutgers, the receiver that didn't hold on to the ball, obviously. And there are 2 defenders there trying to make a play. And if he holds on to that pass, that's just a good play by the receiver. But for the most part, other than penalties, I thought the defense, again, was exactly what they've been all season.
And no false starts from the tackles, right?
Even no false starts.
Over-unders. Over-unders.
Today, this week's going to be a weird one, I think, when we look back at over-unders next week.
I got lucky on that one because I was like, oh, there's the false start, and then they didn't call it. I joked on Twitter. I'm like, that just looked like perfect timing from Josh Simmons to me. Then in parentheses, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Am I doing this right, Michigan fans? Oh man, just no, nothing's happening. Nothing. We'll get to your thoughts on Michigan in a moment. Tommy Eichenberg, I was worried about that. Looked like he hurt his arm, and he went back and then came back out. So that's a good sign.
So we were actually standing on the field over there. He goes jogging by me. I wasn't sure what happened. I was wondering if maybe he just had to go to the bathroom. But he came back out. I can tell if it was his hand that was wrapped. It looked like something was wrapped. But then when he finally came out after postgame, he had a big ice bag on his forearm area. So something with that he must have done. But I did hear him because to get to the post-game interview room, which is right next to the locker room here, you walk up the tunnel at the same time as the players. And he was asked by one of the Rutgers coaches, I guess it was, is everything all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good. So doesn't sound like anything too serious. He was walking out after the game, had the ice pack on his arm, like I said. But, I guess you never know. I've said that a couple times this year. It doesn't seem too serious. And then guys miss games or, you never know with this team, right? With guys in and out of this lineup.
Couple things we'll get you out of here. We'll bring Steve Helwagen in. Couple things though. So let's start with the offense. Things that stand out to you. I mean, give me your thoughts on how Kyle McCord played overall, and give me your thoughts on Travion Henderson just taking this game over.
Yeah, Kyle. Look, he starts 11 of 11, not big yardage.
Should have been 11 of 11. Yeah,
I think he was 11 of 11 because he set the record for
Julian had to drop. Oh, that would have been 12 of 12. Okay.
Yeah, because he set the record. He broke C.J. Stroud's record for consecutive completions. This obviously over 2 games going back to last week, 18 straight. So, look, it wasn't. They were kind of taking what the defense was giving them. Ryan Day talked about how Rutgers came out. Greg Schiano kind of came out in a shell defense. Was basically baiting them to take those stuff underneath, thinking they'd get impatient. And so Kyle was doing that early on. The interception. Not good. Ryan said he liked the read that Kyle made. He's like, you just got to put a little bit more on that. He was like, Marvin was there. You just got to get it over the linebacker. And Kyle kind of said the same thing. I thought for the most part he was fine. Again, better in the second half than he was in the first, I believe statistically. So it's just consistency. Consistency is going to be the thing with him, and it's. You're just not seeing it at this point. And I don't know, we're 9 games into the season. I don't know if that's going to change this year. I think he still has a high ceiling. It's just not there enough. By the way, just got an email that Ohio State is making a Heisman push for Marvin Harrison Jr. I believe there's a graphic that they are or just have put out on social media. Check that out. They don't usually do that for their guys, but they're doing it for Marv.
Welcome to the party. We've been talking about it on the Bucknuts 45 and what we learned live for the last 3 weeks. And they used to do it all the time. I remember the Orlando Pace pancakes. Eddie George, they had a campaign for Eddie George. They had a campaign for an offensive lineman. He's the best offensive lineman ever. Like I said, Orlando Pace with the pancakes. Last thing before we get Steve Helwagen in here. Special teams. Parker Fleming, what are we doing here? Now, either that was a terrible call. Then people are like, well, Mirko did it on his own. Okay. If I'm the special teams coach, I am making sure my punter knows he does not have the green light. I don't care if it was a called fake punt or if Mirko did that on his own. That is still on Parker Fleming. We see him messing up all the time. Michigan game. Long snapper doesn't know it's a fake punt. 12 guys on the field in the Georgia game when they were going to do a fake punt. And now this. Not here for it.
Yeah, they're lucky it didn't hurt them. Ryan Day said after the game that it wasn't supposed to be a fake punt and there was miscommunication there. So he was then asked to follow up about, could you go into, explain what you mean by that? And he said, I don't want to do that right now. I'll have a better answer for you on Tuesday when we meet with him, obviously. So I'm interested to hear what they were trying to do there. I don't know if he doesn't want to blame somebody, but I couldn't find a replay of it other than what was on the TV broadcast, and I was not positioned in a great place in the press box to watch it again. It looked to me like the guys were set up out to block. Like Xavier Johnson stays out there to block instead of running downfield as a gunner. So to me, I was pretty sure it was a fake punt called. Now, I don't know if they called it and then tried to call it off. I'll be interested to hear what Day says. But yeah, look, it's every week there's something, right? And you're going to hire or you're going to have a full-time special teams coach. It's got to be better. They weren't having these problems when Urban was sort of running the show on special teams. It still wasn't great. You still weren't returning kicks for touchdowns as often as you'd like, but not good now. And I don't know what you do from here. The interesting thing I think you're going to run into this offseason, unless they expand the coaching staff, is you want James Laurinaitis on this staff, right? And you want him to be able to go out and recruit. Okay, so do you move on from Parker? I don't like to advocate for coaches to get fired unless they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Hint, hint.
Jim Harbaugh.
What? But do you move on? Yeah, do you move on from Parker Fleming to move James Laurinaitis to a full-time assistant and not have a special teams coach? I think that's a possibility. Or do they go look for another special teams coach? A lot of teams don't have a special teams coach on the staff, so I don't know what direction they'll go in. But it is not good and needs to be fixed. And maybe Ryan not wanting to say anything post game was, kind of hinting at he didn't want to throw Parker Fleming, or if Jesse did it on his own, then didn't want to throw him under the bus. You asked me about Travion before, and I think I should touch on him because that was a fantastic game. Back-to-back games. Look, I think they've really handled this well. Obviously, him being banged up was not great for 3 games, missing those 3 games. But the fact that you get him back and he's fresh and he's looking like Travion Henderson from his freshman year, that 65-yard reception, there are a few plays I think you can point to as turning points in the game. Obviously, the pick 6 too. But, if you don't get that there, you're not in a great spot. And now you're 5 yards from the end zone. They almost messed it up, but they ended up getting the touchdown. He was great, and I thought he hit holes well. I thought he ran hard. I think this may benefit them. Not that you want a guy to miss 3 weeks, but I think it may benefit them to have him here these next few weeks a little bit fresher than he was, certainly a year ago.
Yeah, I'm sure his ribs don't agree with this, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise. His leg, you're right, man. His legs look fresh as heck. Great point. Great stuff from Patrick Murphy. I was going to get your thoughts on the cheating scandal up north. I'll get Steve Helwagen's thoughts on that. I'll let you get back.
It's not good. It's not good.
It's really, really bad. And depending on your point of view, from my point of view, it's really, really hilarious. But yeah, it just depends on your point of view. Everything is about perspective. Patrick Murphy.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. If Steve's as fired up as he was after a few pops last night in just a minute, you're going to have a good next few minutes here.
Oh, I love the foreshadowing. All right, buddy.
All right. Talk to you, Dave.
I appreciate it.
Guys.
Stuff out of Patrick Murphy. All right, Steve. All right, there's, as promised, Steve Helwagen is in here. Now, I understand from speaking to our friend Patrick that you have some unfiltered thoughts that you'd like to share about Jim Harbaugh and those cheaters up north. Steve.
Oh, it looks like the posse is finally closing in on them, and with the athletic directors and the coaches in particular taking their case to Tony Petitti to say, look, you got to do something about this. Perhaps this week, maybe we'll have some movement. A lot of rumors that the posse is closing in on Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Poor Connor Stallions, he resigned his post at Michigan yesterday, refused to cooperate with the investigation, and then his attorney put out some amazing kind of word salad statement that was just out of this world. You sit there and you read it, you just laugh. Do you think we're all idiots? You have the paper trail of all the tickets that were purchased. You have video of somebody sitting in those seats taking video of the opponent's sideline, and then you have him, around the bend on the sideline with the Michigan coaches, telling them what to do, telling the coordinators what's coming and what to do. It's not a coincidence, and it's an unfair advantage, and it strikes at the integrity of the game, and they've short-circuited all of that, and they deserve whatever's coming their way, and it probably won't even be enough. They took food out of the mouths of, a lot of coaches and their kids and their families, and, they cheated the system. and it's time for them to pay their comeuppance for it. What they did was not right, and it's just not, not in a good sportsmanship type of way, not in any way, shape, or form. So, I could sit here. I'm probably not as fired up as I was last night, but yeah, I mean, we were sitting there watching it kind of unfold in real time. All the house of cards come down around them, and it just, it's long overdue, and you hope that they come to a consensus on it. I think the presidents have to tell Petiti what to do. The presidents have to give him the green light that you may smack them. You have our permission. Now, here's a delicate thought. No one wants to mess with the bottom line. And you have 3 teams that should be in the New Year's Six with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And how about this from Petiti? Just outlaw them from the Big Ten championship, but don't impose a postseason ban. And then they still have to go and play in a New Year's Six bowl somewhere, maybe even the playoff. If they're 12-0 but can't go to Indianapolis, they should still be in the playoff, right? So, and then if the NCAA wants to come in over the top and penalize them for this year, then they wouldn't be in the New Year's Six or the playoff or whatever. But I think they've lost the right to play for the Big Ten championship. That's my feeling.
We're going to talk about Ohio State's win over Rutgers in just a second. I just want to say I'm going to give a shout out to Ryan Day. He's coaching this Ohio State team and leading this investigation against Michigan all at the same time. I mean,
man wears many hats.
Talk about multitasking. I mean, my
He's
goodness, Ryan Day.
He's a multitasker.
I believe some of the people that cover Michigan for a living, man, they think a lot of Ryan Day. They're like, man, this guy's a private investigator. He's doing a little bit of everything, man. All right, let's start with the defense. Let's start with the positive. Josh Proctor. My goodness, Josh Proctor. What a game out of him. Thank goodness I don't think he's seriously injured. I think he got dinged a little bit, but he looks fine. Josh Proctor, my man, he continues to have a great season.
Yeah, the one goal line stand, he made 2 plays on the goal line to force the field goal on 2nd and 3rd down. He shot into the backfield and hit the running back for a loss on 2nd down, and then they threw a pass, and he sniffed it out and tackled the guy for no gain on 3rd down to leave him 4th and goal at the 2 or whatever it was, and they kicked a field goal. So there's 4 points. He saved you right there. Then he crashes down. What a great play call that was. I'm watching it through my binoculars, and he fakes the handoff to Monangue and tries to throw the little, pop pass down the middle to Monangue. And you think, oh, my God, he's wide open. He might score on this. And out of nowhere, Proctor lowered the boom on him. It was a legal hit. It was not targeting, although they replayed it on the board here like 30 times, like trying to get the officials, to look at it for targeting. And then it comes right to Hancock. And from here in the stadium, as soon as he catches it, you're like, he's going to go, because there was nobody that had an angle or the speed to catch him. And he had a convoy of blockers out in front. Flags come in. You're like, oh, no, who ruined this? You're thinking, oh, my God, did somebody block somebody in the back on a loner, or a lay down loner, like in Euchre? No, it was one of their guys chopped Styles to take him out of the play so he couldn't block anybody else, so maybe somebody else could get to Hancock. And so the play stands, and that flipped this game on a dime. Obviously, Ohio State got another defensive stop after that, went down the field, and Henderson scored to make it 21-9. And, yeah, they got it back down 21-16, but, then Ohio State closed it out in fine fashion after that, 35-16 the final. And the 2 passes to Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously. The 65-yard pass to Henderson. Henderson's playing his best football again, and that's bad news for the rest of the Big Ten, I'm afraid. Just a real wonky game, Dave. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. They don't get off to a great start. 3 and out, first time they have the ball. 6 possessions in the first half, only sustained 1 of them. And, basically set Rutgers up, and, for the 9 points that they got were all off miscues by Ohio State. The fake punt, the gadget play that they didn't sniff out on 4th down, the snap between the legs. This Greg Schiano, where do they come up with this stuff? And then the interception, they gave them possession in plus territory on the interception. So Ohio State basically gifted them, the 9 points that they got in the first half, and it could have been much worse. But this defense is as good as just about any Ohio State defense I can recall. I mean, they are up there, and they did struggle a little bit stopping the run here today, but when it got down in the red zone, they were money, so they deserve all kinds of credit.
Parker Fleming, am I being too hard on him? I mean, some schools, big-time programs don't even have a full-time special teams coach. Everybody chips in. All the assistant coaches chip in. They have a full-time coach. Ohio State has a full-time special teams coach. I believe he's making $500,000 a year. And, Steve, sometimes I see average special teams. Sometimes I see bad special teams. I never see good overall special teams from Ohio State under Parker Fleming. And whether it was Mirko doing it on his own or whether it was a called fake punt, that's a disaster. The reason I say either way it's on Parker Fleming, if I'm the special teams coach, I am making sure I tell my punter, dude, you do not have the green light. Now, as Patrick pointed out, it looked like they were blocking for a fake punt, so I think a fake punt was called, despite what people are saying. Regardless,
Ryan Day said it wasn't. Ryan Day said it was not a called fake punt. Ryan Day said it was not a called fake punt.
Well, regardless, Parker Fleming needs
a
to get his
miscommunication.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take it and run with it. I agree with you 100%. I mean, Michigan last year, there's a miscommunication and the fake punt gets screwed up. Earlier this year, well, that was kind of a bad snap that went to the up back, whatever. But just too many problems on special teams week after week after week after week after week after week. I mean, this is not an isolated situation. This is at least the second time in a competitive game they've screwed up the communication on whether they're doing it or not doing it. And that you're getting too tricky at this point. You're outsmarting yourself. And whether he's part of that mechanism or what the problem is, I lay it on him. I mean, it's his unit. And I know the other assistants are involved in it, but they got to figure this out, Dave. This can't go on because it's going to cost them a game here at some point. Terrible special teams is going to cost you a game at some point.
Yeah, I agree with my friend Donnie Powell, who is a really good softball shortstop and hitter. He could rake and he could field. Donnie Powell, he says the kicking game is good. I agree with that. I think they field kickoffs well. Jaden Fielding is good at kickoffs. I expect a lot more overall out of this Ohio State special teams. Steve Helwagen, stay out of trouble tonight, especially Patrick Murphy. If you guys go out in New York City, just make sure you guys don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay safe.
No. It'll be an easy night. We have to be on a 9:55 flight tomorrow, although the clocks are falling back an hour. So we would get an hour. But, this basketball and football overlap just about kills me. And I am the season starts Monday. I know it's a soft launch because it's on streaming and they're coming off a losing season and nobody seems to really be too enthused about it. I still go and cover it. So, yeah.
Dude, I was going to say I'll give your over-under of sleep tonight at 1.5 hours with fallback. I'm giving you 2.5 hours of the shut-eye tonight. I think you're going to I'm going to go over 2.5. I think you're going to get probably 3 hours of sleep tonight if I had to guess.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see about Patrick. I don't know. Patrick might be under. I don't know. Is there any European soccer on tonight? See he'll be up all night.
He was watching his Man United this morning, and they pulled out a dramatic 1-0 win with with a goal like in the last 20 minutes or something. I mean, just imagine sitting through that crap for 90 minutes. But
you can't expect every soccer team to score like the Columbus Crew, the highest scoring team in MLS this year, by the way. Yeah. Not every soccer team can score like the Columbus Crew. All right, Steve. Great stuff,
All right,
bud. All right, safe travels. All right, have fun tonight. My friends in New York City. You're like, New York City, it's Piscataway. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they're going to go to New York City. They better. Now, when Steve and I went to Newark, New Jersey, that would have been back in 2011. Spring of 2011, Ohio State was in the Sweet 16 for basketball. Newark, not a good town. Sorry if you're from Newark, New Jersey. Not Newark, Ohio. I'm talking about Newark, New Jersey. We went there, and they're playing Kentucky. Ohio State's the number 1 overall seed. Again, the 2010, 2011 Buckeyes. We got Aaron Kraft, freshman, Jared Sullinger, freshman, Diebler, senior, Leidy, senior. I mean, it was a great team. William Buford. Kentucky wasn't supposed to be that good. And we're like, all right, after they beat Kentucky, and then we're waiting, we got a day in between before the Elite Eight game. We're going to go ahead on over to New York City and check it out. And then, of course, Kentucky won. At Brandon Knight, last-second shot, kind of last second. William Buford had the last-second shot that missed, but, man, that was a tough one, Ohio State losing to Kentucky. So, yeah, man, if you're anywhere near – if you're in Jersey, my biggest question is always, like, how close are we to New York City? So there you go. Yeah, man, I feel bad for G. Scott with that drop. G. Scott's having his coming out party, that great touchdown. And for everybody that's being hard on Kyle McCord, keep in mind how great he started this game out. That was an absolute dime to G. Scott Jr. It's almost like that was a good catch by G, but it was almost like he had no choice. I mean, you could not have just put that ball in his hand any better than Kyle did, But Kyle's got to be better. You can't just say, well, because Julian Fleming had a drop that killed momentum, and then G had a drop that killed momentum. No, you got to be better. Still, to win this game, though, somehow they covered the spread. Any of you out there that bet on the Buckeyes today, you're sitting there thinking, crap. Unless it was the money line, right? Even the money line, maybe you were thinking for a minute. But if you bet on the spread, you're thinking, geez. Hopefully they just win because there's no way they're going to cover. And then they cover by a half a point. Buckeyes favored by 18.5, and they covered. Again, great to see Carnell Tate do what he did. We learned Josh Proctor's proving idiots wrong, Anybody who might have not talked up Josh Proctor coming into this year, he's proven all those idiots wrong. Yeah, Julian Fleming's banged up. He's dropping too many passes. I just need to see Carnell Tate in there over Julian. And Julian has his role. He's a tough guy. He's athletic as heck. He's a great blocker. And that's important in this offense, to be a great blocker as a wide receiver. Jermaine Matthews getting the start. Love that. Love that out of that kid. I mean, that's just huge for his future. Jermaine Matthews getting a start. And this isn't like he's forced into action. This is, maybe I know Denzel was out today, which is why. But with Denzel, Igbinosun, and Hancock, I mean, that's a hell of a top 3 corner room. And Matthews is still getting his way in there. Again, I know Denzel was hurt today, and that's why. But still, even when Denzel's healthy, Matthews is at least getting some playing time. Had a pick 6 earlier this year. Looks like they're playing it safe with Cade Stover, is my guess. I think that's what we learned with Cade Stover. I think he would have played if this was like the national championship game or the Michigan game. He was dressed. If you can't beat Rutgers without him, then you don't deserve to be number 1 or even close. They were able to do that. And it gives him another week too. It wasn't just, it gives Cade a full 2 weeks to rest. And maybe you don't play him next week because Michigan State actually, they're playing Nebraska today, so who knows? But I don't care how that turned out. Michigan State's terrible. They're terrible. So I don't know. I mean, mixed emotions. I'm sure all you guys have mixed emotions as well. But bottom line, Buckeyes 9-0. They're number 1 in the country. They're going to go 10-0 next week, and then we're going to see what happens after that. They'll go 11-0 against Minnesota, and then they'll head to Ann Arbor 11-0. Minnesota's not terrible, though. But still, that game being in Columbus, Ohio State's going to win that game. And going to Ann Arbor 3 weeks from today. I can't wait. And I've been saying, whatever happens to Michigan, I do not want the game canceled this year. I don't want the game canceled. You can argue it should be. And I hear that. I get those are salient arguments. I do not want the game canceled. I want to go Ohio State to go up there and take care of business. And I think they will. All right. Appreciate you guys joining me. I'm going to shut down the show now. Thank you to all of my guests, Dan Rubin, Mark Neal, Patrick Murphy, Steve Helwagen. And of course, thanks to all of you. Appreciate you guys so much. Hope everyone has a great day, a great evening, and a great rest of your weekend.